Now the purpose of this table is to summarize the data. We're looking across grades 3 through 8, Norwalk trends versus state trends. If you look at mathematics, you see all, that means all the students that were tested in Norwalk and all the students that were tested in the state. In 2006, 45% of our students across grades 3 through 8 met goal in mathematics versus 58% for the state, a difference of 13 percentage points. Now, in 2013, we've increased to 63% versus 66% for the state. So the rate of change, the rate of improvement is really dramatic. First, we were 13 percentage points difference. Now we're down to 3. Reading, the same scenario. Now we're only 3 points away from the state in reading, 4 points away from the state in writing. So what this shows is, when you're summarizing the data across, again, it's an estimate, but it shows how the gap is closing over that 7-year period. All of our students are learning. In a diverse community, if we're going to succeed, if we're going to improve, every subgroup needs to improve. Now we're going to look at some specifics. We're focusing mainly tonight, just to be brief, really. We picked reading, looking at reading grade 4. We're looking at African American results for Norwalk versus the African American results for the state, and we're looking at a specific grade, grade 4, in reading. If you look at the blue line, at the beginning of the generation, Norwalk was slightly below the state, sort of mirrored the state, and now we see that Norwalk's grade 4 African American reading results exceeds the results of their peers statewide by 7 percentage points. Now, this is a more difficult conversation and truly showing the gap. We're looking at the results just of Norwalk students. At or above goal, we're looking at the results of African American students versus white students. 2006, look at that gap, 35 percentage points. African American students, 26% at goal grade 4 versus 61% for their white peers. Look at the gap now, 2013, 29 percentage points. Are we happy with that? No. But you do see a decline over time, a steady increase in the growth of African American students, and somewhat of an increase for our white students too. Now we see that differential has dropped to just under 30 percentage points, 29 points. Are we happy with that difference? No. But at least we're moving in the right direction. Now, another large subgroup in Norwalk, we're still looking at grade 4 reading, Hispanic. Now you see these stars on the data chart. Historically, our Hispanic students, regardless of content, grade, consistently outperform their peers statewide. And so you see our Hispanic Norwalk students consistently above. But now they truly are 14 points, the largest difference between the state's Hispanic subgroup and Norwalk. Right across the board, though, the whole generation, there's been higher percent at goal for our Hispanics in reading. Again, we're just looking at a specific grade, but it really applies to almost all grades. Now we're looking at grade 4 again, reading. Just Norwalk students, Hispanic versus white. You see the Hispanic students increasing at a higher rate, but still somewhat lower than their white peers. Somewhat of a drop in the gap. There was 27 percentage points difference here versus 21 here. Now we want to look at some middle school results. Again, we're looking at reading. African American students in Norwalk versus African American students statewide, grade 7 reading. Well, you see, for the most part, we've been somewhat below the state. But now, since 2011, look at this straight line going up. So now we see a gap. Norwalk is, 9 points above the state in terms of African American performance, grade 7 reading. Now we're looking at, again, grade 7 reading just in Norwalk students, African American students versus white students. Enormous gap here, 47 percentage points in 2006. That gap is now reduced to 24. Look at this trajectory, the improvement of African American in middle school reading. Just straight up. Usually we see noise in there, but this is just a straight improvement since 2008, right up. Hispanic, again, the same with grade 7 reading results. And as we said, historically, versus state Hispanic students statewide, we see that Norwalk has been above. But look at that difference here. It was very small, 6 points. Now there's a difference of 18 percentage points. Again, the trajectory is certainly is steeper than that of the state. And you see states stayed the same between 2012 and 2013. Norwalk students increased 5 percentage points. Here we're looking again at just Norwalk students. Hispanic versus white, grade 7 reading. 2006, almost a 40-point difference, 39. That's been reduced in half to 15. Again, look at the trajectory. So we're seeing, just using one example, well, actually 2 examples, one elementary, grade 4, and one middle school, grade 7 in reading. We see how the gap in Norwalk has been decreased, looking both at statewide subgroup results and also within our community looking at white subgroup versus African American and white versus Hispanic. Okay, we'll move on.
Couple more minutes.
Okay. For CAP, again, it's the same type of chart. Grade 10 is only tested 850 students. You see the diversity. Here again, the baseline year is 2007. And in 2007, about 20% of our students were eligible for free and reduced lunch. Now it's 39. We've seen increases in Hispanic students. African American has remained just about the same, and a decrease of a few percentage points for our white students. This is the same type of chart, looking at math, science, reading and writing, the base year 2007 to 2013. The gains here, mathematics and writing. We're not seeing the gains in Norwalk or statewide on CAP as we saw on CMT. This is the same, a chart just showing the results, the Norwalk trends versus the state trends for all the students that were tested, and for African American, Hispanic, white, free and reduced lunch, students with disabilities, and ELL. In 2013, if you look at our Hispanic subgroup, in all content areas, Norwalk Hispanic students exceed the results of the statewide Hispanic students. But we see we're making some progress. It's not as dramatic as you see on CMT.
Okay. I want to thank you, and I think it was important
to share this information with you tonight, and we're happy to send board members a more explicit, a whole another set of various charts if you'd like, and just send us an email, or we're happy to include it in this Friday's packet to you, so you could have